So last month we finished up the academic angst theme. I've had a lot of fun doing that, and originally it had just been started, just kind of not everyone looks forward to going back to school, and I don't know, I guess it's kind of my way of sort of satirizing or parodying what they may have been going through. So this month I actually wanted to keep with a bit of a school theme. I actually really enjoyed that, so I wanted to do one more. And this is going to be September Sorority Sisters. So we are all honorary sorority members this month. So I'm sure the fellas will get a kick out of it. So the first film I wanted to take a look at is Sorority House Massacre, the 1986 film. It was released on a limited theatrical run, and this was distributed by Concorde Pictures. 1 year after the theatrical release, it was picked up by Warner Home Video, and there have only been 2 printings on DVD of this film that I know of, which were back in 2000. The film was released as a single disc edition, and once again in 2003. And the film was re-released in conjunction with Sorority House Massacre 2, which really isn't too related to the film series. It's just takes a whole different turn, and it's actually, it also happens to have been released by New Horizons Home Video rather than Concorde, so just a very strange turn there. I don't consider them part of the same series. They do reference quite a bit. So in this film we have Beth. She is just a little bit glum because her aunt passed away. This is the woman who raised her as a child. Her family had been murdered, and she was sort of adopted by this woman. Gradually, throughout the course of the film, she has increasing nightmares about some man chasing her through that home. She really doesn't recognize him, and eventually at some point in time, the girls hold somewhat of a hypnotherapy session, and we realize that these are repressed memories. Her family was actually murdered in that same home that now happens to be the sorority house, and she's obviously now recalling what did happen. Beth isn't an actual sorority member, but she has been invited to stay as a guest for the weekend just on account of her family event, and obviously she's friends with quite a bit of girls from the organization, so she has been welcomed in for the weekend. I think the film tries just a little bit too hard to go the psychological angle. I mean, even I guess you would say on a subliminal level, the following morning the girls wake up, they go to class, and they all have separate psychology classes. Eventually, someone does discuss how brain waves can be conducted in a manner in which, for example, if a mother cat were separated from its kittens by miles, and the exact moment that the kittens were killed, the mother cat would cry. So somehow, I know it sounds a bit off the wall, but somehow this ties back to Beth's situation, because her brother Bobby, who was institutionalized, somehow is now aware of the fact that she is in the home. He's broken out of the asylum, and he's returned to kill her. So in some aspects, to me, this sort of does remind me of Halloween, and I'm pretty sure the film gets this comparison a lot in the fact that the brother goes through the trouble of killing the entire family, and then years later comes back for the younger sister. But one of the earlier scenes also, for some reason, reminds me of, I believe it's Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where one of Beth's dream sequences, she's walking up to the home, and there's 3 little girls sitting in the front yard. They're wearing little puffy dresses, and they're having a picnic. They're not necessarily playing hopscotch or jump rope or anything, but I think it's just the fact that it's 3 little girls, puffy dresses, front yard, I don't know, it just kind of reminds me of that also. The film is fairly decently acted. The story is water thin. It did try to be slightly original, but I think in the fact that within the 3rd act of the film is where they just completely lose me, because the writing really goes downhill. In one sequence, when the girls are trying to fight off the killer, she's basically just smacking the guy with the shovel, and it's just these very wimpy patting sounds, and she even smacks him in the butt. I'm like, if you're trying to fend off a killer, I'm pretty sure you'd be going after his head or something. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be too concerned with just, giving him a smack on the hiney. There isn't too much gore in the film either. The characters are pretty one-dimensional, very cheesy, fairly stupid. Or one of the lighter scenes in the film before everything really pretty much does take a darker turn is Obviously, you have to have some exploitation element, obviously this being a sorority type film. So you have a sequence with the girls raiding someone's closet. They're all trying on clothes, and you have partially nude women. This is sort of set up as some sort of a montage type scene. You have this really bad saxophone music playing in the background, which I'm guessing is supposed to be enthusiastic, but it sounds more like somebody just ran it over with the vehicle. I guess they do kind of try to play up just a bit, but the characters are very predictable, especially one girl in particular. She's just a total moron. In the scene where Beth is being hypnotized, she suggests, rather than it being a repressed memory, she's like, well, what if you're having some sort of a past life experience? And I'm like, not very logical, especially after what was just explained. Beth eventually does recall that these events took place when she was 5 years old. One of the girls just kind of smartly remarks, well, who remembers anything that happens when they were 5? And once again, the doofus girl chimes in and says she remembers lime jello. So yeah, it is a bit silly, pretty left field, but not really much of a storyline. Pretty dull. It starts off really great. I really enjoyed the writing in the beginning. The characters were fairly entertaining. It's just the ending half, which is just incredibly ridiculous. And as I had previously stated, there was another sequel, which was Sorority House Massacre 2. This one takes a way different turn. You have a sorority which does buy that same supposed abandoned home. It looks like a home movie. I really hate that style of film. I do not care for that. And I honestly couldn't get past the first 10 minutes. It was really bad. The acting was horrible, the sets, the lighting, everything was just disgusting. And just the fact that they kind of tried to spin this and turn it into a haunted house / possession story, with the fact that one of the girls had found a Ouija board. They try to communicate, and obviously somebody winds up being possessed with the spirit of the dead killer. A lot of differences and liberties were taken between the two stories. When they talk about the previous incidents, nothing quite matches up, not even the events. So I pretty much consider this more of a standalone rather than it being actually part of the original film. The sequel, Sorority House Massacre 2, this one supposedly also did have its own direct sequel, which was called Hard to Kill. And it's the basic same plot here. It's sort of a possession, haunted house type deal, and it takes place in a skyscraper. So these films are considered part of the Massacre series, Cheerleader Massacre, or Slumber Party Massacre, but that is pretty much all I have for you today. I will talk to you later.